Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel and another live stream, another weekend of Premier League action is on the horizon. This weekend, Manchester United at home to Sunderland, and we have a manager who looks a little bit like this and looks a little bit like he needs a win. He needs some points, he needs a performance, he needs a response from his players because he's under pressure. I don't care what the news outlets are saying about his job being safe. He's under pressure. He's the Manchester United manager. He will always be under pressure. So what he needs this weekend is an opportunity to climb up the league table. We are currently sat in 14th place, which is not where we want to be. But the great thing about the start of the season is the league is still condensed. It's all really packed. So all it takes is 1 or 2 wins in a row, and suddenly you start to climb the table quite quickly. United may have started the season poorly, but the fixtures have been difficult so far. We've got some okay fixtures coming up fairly soon, perhaps starting off with this one. And for me, it's an opportunity for United to start going towards the right end of the table. To do that, we need to get our starting 11 right. We need to get the team playing right on this football pitch. So that is the plan for today, to come up with a Manchester United 11 and an idea for this United 11 that can beat this Sunderland side. Before we do any of that, get yourselves in the chat and let me know how we're feeling about Manchester United, how you're feeling about your week so far, and just things in general. Who have we got in here this morning? We got Steve, we got Kieran, we got Callum, we got DLP, we got Sun. Good morning to you all. We got Kieran with the 4-month membership. Kieran, thank you very much, saying hi nerd. Good morning to you, mate. Hope you're well. I bet Exeter predicts a Sunderland win. I love that you just say Exeter, and I know exactly who that is. Partly because of that comment as well. They can, but they won't. That's one way of looking at it, but I like to think that maybe we could go on a winning run. It's weird. Normally we would see a team in the top 5, in the case of Sunderland, and think, oh boy, it's going to be a tough weekend. But weirdly, because it's a newly promoted side, you just feel that man-to-man, individually, we should have the better players, which is always going to give us a chance in a match. When we make the Manchester United front line, I'm sure that they will be players that we rate higher than the Sunderland front line. So it feels like you could argue you wouldn't even have to play amazingly well to win this match. This might be one of those games where we're just looking for moments. This might be another week where just the result is more important than the performance. Because, like I said, Amorim needs some pressure off of his shoulders. Only 8 points off the top. That would usually get you Champions League football. Exactly. If we just keep that gap to... Who is it? Is it Liverpool top at the moment? It is. If we keep that gap the same all season, you're right. We're going to be in the Champions League. Just saying. So we just need to match their results from now. That might be easier said than done. Anyway, I think for today's stream, what we're going to do is we're going to approach it in the usual way of going through the United 11 position by position, trying to build a team that we think can win. But we're going to do something that Steve mentioned the other day. And that is, rather than going goalkeeper, centre-backs, midfield, frontline, we're going to pick 3 or 4 players that we absolutely want to see in our 11. Then we're going to decide where we want to see them. Then we're going to figure out how that lines up and where we can actually get them in. I am also just going to silence that bot in the chat because I don't know why that keeps appearing. Callum, thank you very much. So yeah, the first thing that I want to hear from you guys is basically, who are the players that have to start for United in this game? Give me 3 players that you guys feel collectively, we'll go through the chat and do it together. 3 players that you feel that they've got to be starting this week. We need them in the starting 11. Then from there, together, we can figure out where they should be starting. And then that sort of gives us our core to then build the rest of the team around. Let's get some players, some good players in their best position. That's what we want to see. If we let Granit Xhaka run the game against us, I'm retiring from football. Yeah, I haven't actually managed to catch much of Sunderland yet this season. I think I've only seen one match, but I've heard good things about Xhaka and the way they're playing in general, right? They're 5th, so they must be doing something right. From the little I've seen of Sunderland, they've been very physical. We've struggled in these types of games. I'm sure, I might be wrong on this, but I'm sure I saw a stat that was Sunderland, in terms of their aerial duels, are competing very well, winning a lot of aerial duels, which is something that United can sometimes struggle with. Anyway, let's look at these 3 players. Le Mans up front. I'm down for it. Shesko, Le Mans and Mbeumo all have to start. Bruno and Mbeumo, Cunha. I like it. Might be difficult to get him in, but let's give it a go. Le Mans, please, says Callum. Le Mans, Yoro and Mbeumo. Bruno, De Ligt, Shesko and Mbeumo. Yoro, Mainu, Cunha, Bruno and Mbeumo, Le Mans. It's going to be difficult, isn't it? Steve Brooks, you're good, mate. Your internet is fine. I have also been having internet problems this week. Le Mans, Mount De Ligt. Okay, well, I think what I'm seeing is, I don't want to be too biased here. Let me just quickly read through. I'm seeing a good amount of Le Mans for starters. It seems like people want him in a team, and I might do a video on that later. I'm seeing De Ligt in several teams, and Mbeumo seems to be a feature in a lot of teams, so that's something that we need to try and do, to try and get him in a team somewhere where he can play strong. Let's put those two in. Let's put Le Mans in terms of his best position. You might disagree, but I'd say goalkeeper. You know, that's what I'd say for him. Mbeumo is actually an interesting one that you guys have gone for from the start, because what I want to do today is actually build the 11 and then have a conversation about Mbeumo and his position in the team. But because you guys have gone for him straight away, that sort of thrown me off in terms of the structure of the stream for today. The conversation that I want to raise is, can Mbeumo play a different position? And that's not because he's doing badly in the right 10. He's had a good start to the season, been one of our better players. He was a little bit poor last week against Brentford, but who wasn't? There's been arguments that could he play as a wing-back? Now, of course, the immediate reaction to that is always no, because we don't sign an attacking player, a forward player, to have him, first of all, deeper in a wing-back position, but also away from goal, that wide. Two counterpoints. One, a wing-back doesn't have to be deep for us. If we switch that defence to a back four, like we've seen Amorim doing in the past, he doesn't have to defend deep. But in terms of the ball reception thing, right, I think a lot of us have the opinion that if we put Mbeumo wing back, we're moving him away from goal, which doesn't make too much sense, right? And I completely understand that argument. Seems to be picking up quite central positions, and Mbeumo, our inside forward, is picking up a wider zone. Now, I think the argument I'm trying to make here is, you see that pass reception zone for Mbeumo there? That's where we want our wing back to be. So could we actually make things a bit simpler for ourselves by just putting Mbeumo out there? We saw last week several occasions where Dalot was in that inside position that we can see here. He would move inside into midfield. It was him that obviously failed the pass or gave a bad pass to Cunha for the first goal for Brentford, where they countered from. We discussed the other week how we saw Mazraoui was inverting multiple times really in the game from Mbeumo to move wider. Is there a simple thing here to do? Could we put Mbeumo right wing back, really advanced as a wing back, of course, and that gets him in that zone anyway? Again, that graph on the right hand side is where Mbeumo is typically receiving the ball. We could put him at wing back and have him receiving the ball there still. Granted, yes, it would be a little bit deeper, some of the numbers as well, but we could boost him into that higher position and wider position as a starting point. Let me know what you think. Is that something that we could do or not? I personally wouldn't start Ahmad, so Mbeumo wing back to move Bruno forward is worth a shout. Yeah, it also opens up the potential for someone like Mason Mount to come into one of the 10s. You know, do you start Cunha this week or not? Because he's not been great in the past couple. I think it opens up some interesting conversations. Mbeumo is an excellent crosser. This would be a great idea. Yeah, in terms of players in natural positions, Mbeumo's in a wide zone. Him and Luke Shaw are probably our two best crossers of a football, I'd say. So why not get one of your best crossers in a wide position? It makes sense. Yoro or Mazraoui is the right centre-back to cover the space too. I think there's things that we could look at. I think there's something we could do here. Zer, good morning to you, my friend. Ant, good morning to you. Hello, peeps. YouTube was glitching. Hopefully it's all sorted now. If we are having Mbeumo at wing-back, who plays the right centre-back is vital to have pace. So Yoro. Yes, very, very true. We should play a two-striker formation. Šeško thrives in that. I don't want Dalot to start anymore. Was a nightmare to watch him play against Brentford. Slow, no ideas, no defence. He was poor. He was poor last week. I don't want to see Dalot's face ever again. Yeah, let me just make it clear. This is not me putting Dalot forward for starting this match. I think it's just an interesting point that our wing-back is receiving the ball inside the pitch and our inside forward is receiving the ball outside the pitch. Sounds very familiar to something that we heard last season with Garnacho. Garnacho would start in the left 10, but he'd move out wide to actually get on the ball. We're doing something similar with Mbeumo. Is that something that we always had planned? Was it always the plan to start him as a right 10 that drifts wide to pick up the ball? Or have we realised after a couple of games, actually he's not a tight space player, so therefore his starting position needs to be wider? I think particularly the last couple of games, we've really seen him hugging the touchline a little bit more. Something to think about. What I do want from you guys is a third player that absolutely has to be in the 11. We'll figure out their positions later. Who is the third one that has to be in here? You might say De Ligt, you might say Yoro, you might go Bruno, you might go Kobe, Šeško, Cunha, Mount, whoever it is. I want you guys to try and agree in the chat on a third player that has to start. Can you do it? He should be more central and search for balls in behind, just like he did last season. Is that Mbeumo you're talking about there? I think from this wide zone, obviously, of course, we're still talking about, in an ideal world, a fluid structure as well. What I would like to see from this stream is sticking to Amorim's ideas. So we're going to stick with something that sort of blueprints as a 3-4-3 on paper. But I don't want an 11 that looks like every week's 11. Because every week we churn out these same teams that look rather similar, right? Today is about what we would do in Amorim's structure. All right, so it's R11. I want to see something different. I want to see change. It's been a bit samey from United recently. We need to switch it up. We need to be less predictable. Find different ways to attack the opposition. You know, we're 14th. Something isn't working, so let's try and create something today. That's the plan. By the way, any comments that are spammed in the chat simply will not be read out. So please don't spam messages, and also no all capital messages either, please and thank you. Seeing a lot of deletes in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of deletes in the chat. So, where is he? Delete. We're feeling middle centre-back now, right? We liked the experiment last week of him playing as a wider centre-back. The week before it worked really well. We don't want Maguire in the team is the vibe I'm getting. Right? I think that's why Delict is one of the first choice ones here. Because people don't want Maguire, and I think that's fair. He had a poor game last week. I do still think there is an argument for this. For Euro, again, playing as sort of that sweeper behind the other two. But perhaps that's unlikely at the moment in sort of the current state of the team. So are we agreed, basically, that these three must start this weekend? The goalkeeper one's a bit of a weird one for us to sort of throw out there as our, yes, he must start. But I think we've all had enough of Bayindir and dodging shots. You know, we've had enough of that. It's gone on for too long. Assuming the same setup, Heaven, Delit, Yoro, Casemiro, Ugarte, Bruno, Shesko, and Mbeumo. I like it. Some different names in there. Good to see. Heaven, Delit, Yoro. Some different names. I like it. We need Maguire for this game for Ariel. A comment from Bluechester City saying they want Maguire. We've got an imposter in the chat. Bruno too. See, Steve, I would say so, yeah. I would say Bruno as well. I don't know if other people will agree because his form hasn't been immense recently. But Bruno's always going to be in the 11 somewhere. So for me, I would also have him in the team somewhere. It's about finding the position to get the most from him. Now, if it's me, just sort of looking at these guys, Lemond, you start him in goal. Delict, you start him as your middle centre-back because he holds a slightly higher line than what Maguire does. Maguire has this thing in his head where he always wants to give himself a yard, which then stops him jumping forward and creates those problems that we saw last week. So you put Delict in the middle for now. You keep it simple. If we're trying to get the best out of Bruno Fernandes, we're trying to do something different with Bruno, then you don't play him here in a double pivot. You free him. One of the best creators on the planet. In my opinion, the best. That's my opinion. People will disagree. He can be frustrating. But he's a great creative player. There's no denying that. Get him away from our goal, where he's tracking on the edge of our penalty area, or he's dropping into the first phase and having loads of touches. Let's actually reduce his touches a little bit, hold him a little bit higher up the pitch, and let him create from there. I also think this position sort of fits his personality as well. He is a player who likes to roam about and leave his zone. He wants to get on the ball. When you do that in a double pivot, you leave yourself potentially really light, really lacking in numbers here. Whereas if he's doing it from a more forward position, I think it's okay. I haven't actually got the reception map for Cunha today. But if you look at it, I haven't got it today, but if you go to a website called XG Stats, which I'll be talking about more in the next few days, but if you look at Cunha, a lot of his receptions are on the right-hand side. The 10s are given that license to have a bit more freedom. That probably suits Bruno. You know, he's not somebody who wants to play a fixed role deep in midfield. Give him that license to go and explore and express himself, and he can do that here. Enough of Maguire. Goodbye, Big Harry. Yeah. Can't we just put Bruno in the front for 3 and have a midfield for once? Yes, please. Left 10 is best for Bruno. I tend to agree. I think you can also get him right 10. I think he'll always do a job there because he's just great. But left 10 if you really want to get his best position. I'm happy for Bruno to go join the build-up if he's a 10 and has bodies around him. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it should be like his main job. I think it should be he can go help there. Rather than being required to literally every time we get the ball, every now and then he can drop in and give us that extra number. I like it. It also allows us to bulk up the midfield as well. AJ Bruno in the 10, bench Cunha and play the centre-back trio of Yoro, De Ligt and Heaven. Then in the midfield, bring in Kobe with Ugarte or Casemiro. Who would you have in the wing-back positions, my friend? Who would you have? Since Sunderland are into set pieces, do you think it's wise to remove our aerial threat? No, it's probably not. It's probably not. But it's a tricky one, right? Because I'm always of the opinion that we've got to be aware of the opposition and we've got to be respectful. Whether they're 20th or 5th, they're a team that can hurt you. They're in the Premier League. And yeah, we have to look at their physicality, their set pieces. That's something they can hurt us with. But also, I'm a little bit fed up of always trying to account for what the opposition might do. I want to see this United side get on the front foot and try and outplay a football team. Play to our strengths rather than always trying to mask our weaknesses or defend the other team's strengths. I want to see United sort of taking the game to the opposition. I want Sunderland to be sitting there going, well, United have got this, which is good, and this, which is good, so we need to do this to counter for it. I want to see us kind of leading the charge a little bit. Dorgu will be left wing back, so we can probably add him too. Yeah, I think he's a fairly obvious one. There's maybe a bit of room for conversation on the, the Dalot front, or if you want to experiment with a Shaw or an Ahmad, although I get the feeling Shaw's not going to be in too many teams this week. Hot take, Ahmad and Mbeumo as wing backs. I mean, that's front-footed. That is front-footed. I think I put it in my thumbnail. It's not likely. I don't think we'll see it. Oh no, I put Dorgu. I nearly put Ahmad. I very nearly put Ahmad. The reason I didn't in the end was just because I don't think he's been very good recently. But that's been the case for a few players. Oh wait, guys, Steve really likes the like button, by the way. You guys should test it out. Press like. It's just below the video. Press like. There's also a really cool subscribe button as well, which it's just so cool to press. So you should try it. And a little bell for notifications. Oh, that's so cool. Press it, please. Please. We try Mbeumo in the right wing back, and I would play Dalot there on the left. I love Dorgu, but he is struggling to get crosses and attack. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. We can't out Sunderland. Exactly. Last week we tried to out Brentford by creating that physical long ball game. Don't do that. We can't outplay those teams in that way. Let's try and play to our strengths, which is, you would think, our forwards and our attacking players. Maybe this week our midfielders, depending on who we pick. Clear and obvious are Mbeumo, De Ligt and Yoro. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. If Mazraoui is fit, play him right centre-back. He can play in the pivot during build-up next to Casemiro. I like that as a little adjustment. I think he's out injured, unfortunately, Mazraoui. I didn't realise that at the time. But I believe he's injured until after the international break. Okay. Is there anyone else we want to put in as a definite? I think Yoro comes into our team, but I don't know where we put him. If it is me, right? If I was the manager this weekend, let's say I was coming in for this weekend. Let's say I've gone into Manchester United. This is my first match as manager. And I've been told, you got to play a 3-4-3. I don't know why I've been told that, but just for this scenario I have. I'd be looking at Le Mans on the pitch. I'd be looking at De Ligt, Yoro, Bruno and Mbeumo, Shesko, Kobe. They're sort of the players that I would get on the pitch first and go, all right, that's what I want to build with this week. What do I need to get the best out of them? That's how I would approach it. If Dalot plays on the left, I want him inverting and always facing the ball, not overlapping, but I would drop him right now. Yeah, I mean, maybe that opens up something for Ahmad in a left-hand zone. Pardon me. I like voice cracked and hiccuped at the same time. That was horrendous. Alex, good morning to you, my friend. How are you? Good to see you. As we don't get service for our striker, is it better to play with Xerxes as a false nine? Weirdly, Xerxes almost doesn't come into the conversation at the moment. Last year, it was Højlund versus Xerxes, and it felt like a 50-50 on who could play. Right now, Shesko's clearly ahead of Xerxes. But, yeah, it feels more one-sided this year. Who I really don't want to play is Dalot. He's creating more issues for us, and is a large part of why we give away space for the opposition. Yeah, there's players that didn't play well last week. Dalot, most of them. Most of them didn't play well last week. I think Dalot particularly made poor mistakes. I think Maguire made poor mistakes. Like, collectively, it was poor. Poor team performance, poor individual performance, but the particularly bad ones. Dalot had a bad day. Maguire had a bad day. Shaw didn't have a good day. So, I think they're the ones that it's fair to make the case for bringing them out of the team. Now, I'm going to put Yoro here for now. Okay. We want Bruno in the team. He's Bruno Fernandes. We want him in the team. He's our best player. He's our captain. What midfield do you put behind him? What midfield do you put behind him? I love Ahmad, but him and Mbeumo both occupy the same space, so it doesn't work. Unless you get them on different sides of the pitch. That could be a solution. Gonna sneeze. I'm good. Dorgu as right wing back, and maybe use someone else on the left. Even Shaw can do it. He has decent crossing. Dorgu as a right wing back is an interesting shout. If you guys remember, when we first signed him, there was all this talk of the left-footed wing back finally coming to the club, playing on the left-hand side, giving us width, and then he made his debut on the right-hand side of the pitch. So it's not something that we can rule out. It's not something that we can rule out. I think if Bruno's higher, right, our midfield conversation is quite a simple one. It's Casemiro, it's Ugarte, it's Kobbie Mainoo, and we've got to pick two of them. Now, you guys might disagree. I personally wouldn't be happy seeing us play Sunderland at home, no disrespect to Sunderland, with these two. I don't feel the need for, the back three wing backs and two ball wing midfielders. So if I was to start Bruno higher, I'm starting Kobbie in midfield. That's what I'm doing. Then the question is Casemiro or Ugarte? Who do you go for? Who is the better option with Kobbie? Who is the better option with the back three? Who is the better option if for example, we were to play Mbeumo right wing back? That's quite an aggressive player there. It's not a defender. So we might need this midfielder to be someone that can cover the ground there. Maybe. But also at the same time, if we're playing Kobbie for the shorter game, perhaps you want Casemiro for the longer game. But do you want Ugarte's intensity? But Casemiro's height? There's things to consider here. What would you go for? What would you go for? I might do a poll. Let's do that. Let me quickly end the current poll, which had 66% of people still voting for United to win, which I love to see. That's the positivity that we need. New poll. Menus. Nope, I can't type. It's not working. It's not working right now. Is it going to let me type? I'm typing and it's just not going into the poll. Here we go. It's back. All right. Let's try that. Casemiro or Ugarte as the midfield partner for Kobbie Mainoo. Poll is now in the chat. Have your say. I'd prefer Casemiro for playing out from the back. Gives Kobbie the chance to roam and drive a little bit more. Ugarte's good from the bench. He brings on that intensity a little bit later on. Ugarte to start, then Casemiro after Ugarte gets his yellow. It's difficult, isn't it? There's a flip. There's a flip here. Ugarte's work rate is needed to defend. This is where it's frustrating in terms of our recruitment of ball-winning midfielders. Ugarte is labelled as the ball-winning midfielder, right? That's why we signed him. That's why people like him. But we're sitting here saying that, actually, we want the physicality of Casemiro, which means our ball winner is lacking something. I don't want Casemiro to mess up again, but Ugarte is really shaky on the ball. I'm trying to think. How do you guys think Sunderland will approach the game? Perhaps some of you have seen them more than me. I've only caught one match, and I can't even remember which one that was. Do you think Sunderland are going to be a side that come and press us really aggressively, quite hard? Do you think they're going to sit off in a block? Are they going to come and try and control possession, or are they going to play super quick? What are you expecting to see from them? Because perhaps that changes what we want in midfield. Perhaps that changes the type of game that we're going to see. If we're breaking down a block, Casemiro is the better option. Of course he is, right? He's got that passing range, the ability to switch it side to side. We need that if we're trying to break down a block. If it's a bit more transitional, do you want Ugarte's bite and then ability to carry the ball over a few yards before releasing? Need to consider that. Casemiro also a threat from set pieces. Absolutely. Leave my uncle alone, bruv. I do apologise. I would expect Sunderland to press because I can't imagine any team not pressing us right now. If I'm the opposition, I'm thinking United are a little bit fragile right now. Get at them, press them high, challenge them early on, ask questions, see if they buckle. That's what I would be doing. So I think they will be aggressive and press, would be my assumption. Sunderland have already won a good number of games this season. I can see them coming here playing an expansive game. I can't figure out who I would go for. I think I would go Ugarte if we are going more expansive with the wing back. If we're trying like an Mbeumo or an Ahmad here, then I think Ugarte's extra bit of mobility helps cover behind them. That's what I would do. If we are going instead for a Dalot wing-back shift, then I would get Casemiro in midfield for his attacking play. That's where I'm at, I think. That's where I'm at right now with how I would do it. So, in the dream world we're trying to create today, where actually we try something different this week, we don't just churn out the same performance again, I'd be tempted to go like that. Interested to hear your thoughts. What I also need to see in the chat is a lot of love hearts, a lot of flames, and a lot of thank yous for Alex, who has just gifted 5 memberships. Alex, thank you very much, my friend. That's very kind of you, as always. Guys, you know what to do. That chat by now should be full of love hearts and a lot of thank yous, especially if you got gifted a membership. There's 5 of you who did. Quality. Alex, thank you very much, as always. 100% depends on the wingbacks. Yeah, I think it absolutely does. All of these things sort of tie in. That's part of team selection, right? Your midfielder affects your wingback, affects your 10, affects your striker, your centre-backs. It all ties in together. For me, Kobe and Ugarte, I think if we play Bruno in a midfield pivot, we would struggle. Their midfield is good and run us over. What I like here also is that if we are playing Bruno as the left 10, and we're saying we haven't necessarily got the direct passing here, I like that Bruno can sort of come in and provide that for us a little bit. I do quite like that. The only thing I dislike about Bruno left 10, and this is a squad building problem, which I keep going on about this season, is who do you then go for over here if you want some sort of dribbling threat? If I was the manager and I'm building a team, naturally I want my passers in a team, the players that can look after the ball, but I want players that can dribble on both sides of the pitch because I think it just commits defenders, and defenders hate being committed. On the right, we've got players like Mbeumo and Ahmad that can be that. We don't have anyone on the left. You know, if we put Dorgu... Where is he? Here he is. If we put Dorgu and Bruno on this side together, Dorgu's obviously got ball carrying, but quite straight line ball carrying. He doesn't differ too much. He tends to just sort of crowd over the ball and win free kicks. We are lacking that ability to sort of take a man on a little bit, which concerns me. Normally, we get that from Cunha. When he plays this role, he's the one that can do that. But we're not putting him left 10 this week, it seems. Unless... Could you do something like that? Could you do something like that? Something to think about. Something to think about. Doesn't Cunha drift to the left? Yeah, if we start him. That's one of the things we're trying to figure out today. Would you ever try Ahmad at left wing back, thinking about ball carrying, swap him with Dorgu? Yeah, this was something that I was saying, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I want to see it at some point. It's why I wish we were in the Carabao Cup, so that we could try it against lesser opposition. I need to see it. I wouldn't go Ahmad left and Mbeumo right, because that just feels a bit too aggressive for where United are at the moment. I think we need to be a bit more solid than that. But yeah, say if another week you went Ahmad left side and then a Dalot or a Mazraoui on the right side, I would like to see it at some point. I want to see us trying that. You guys like this idea? Bruno right 10 allows a nice drop into midfield 3 with the DM centrally between Mainu and Bruno. Yeah, you're picking up what I'm putting down now. Make that natural overload. You could make that overload. That's the benefit of Bruno, just generally speaking, playing as one of the front 3. He can give us that extra number. You'd also get his work rate sort of around a more attacking right side, which I think would be important. Stephanie kindly pointing out that we've currently got 218 people watching. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for coming along, even when we hate United. But only 50 likes. Only 50 likes. I think we can get those numbers up. So spam the hell out of that like button. Don't, just press it once. But if you all do it, that'd be great. Please and thank you. Sesko in so we can take, so we can see it all take a bit more shape. Is there anyone that wouldn't play Sesko? Is there anyone that wouldn't play him? Interested to hear thoughts on that. Mount has to be in the side somewhere. Yeah, I do get that. Where does he go? Do you take Cunha out? Because all of a sudden we really are lacking wingers at this point. You know, it is, or players that commit people. We've only really got Mbeumo. But as a 4, if we're trying to keep the ball a bit nicer than what we have previously, that feels quite nice. Pressing intensity, that feels really good. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Manu in the chat with the 8-month membership. Manu, thank you very much, my friend. How are you? AJ, try not to talk about this horror team. It's a bit repetitive, isn't it? It's a bit repetitive. Actually, today feels quite different with the conversations that we're having, but thank you very much as always. And I hope you're well, my friend. Xerxes' mum here, not sure to start Shesko. Well, Xerxes' mother, that's a fair point you raise. Thinking about it, if you go Bruno front 3, do you almost have to play Shesko? Because if you went, let's do this, and you went Xerxes, you just don't have the runners that you need. We know that Amorim will always want runners. You don't have any in that front 3. Bruno will sometimes do it, but not sort of like reliably and regularly. Unless, of course, it was something more like that, where Mbeumo then provides that, but we're trying to do something a little bit different. I do side with the idea that you try and get Mount in somewhere, because he just raises the floor. He just raises the level of the whole team. The lack of Mazraoui this week is a problem with what we're building here. I wish we had Mazraoui. For the balance of what I want to try and do with this team, Mazraoui here would be so nice right now. We need a 3-5-2 with Shesko and Cunha up front. I mean, that's very possible with this 11, right? You could become that. You could become that. On the other side of things, if we do want to drop Cunha, which is a fair argument, he hasn't done as well in the last couple of games, take him out, sure. No one's undroppable. We've got a good squad. You can go Mount here, like we've said. You could bump Bruno across and get Mbeumo here. The thing I don't like about this is the wing-back options then become Dalot and Dorgu, which feels too defensive at home to Sunderland, with 2 fullbacks plus 3 defenders. And it feels a bit too similar to what we've had recently. We want to make a different team here. We're trying to basically create an 11 that we haven't seen from United before. Create a balance that we haven't seen before. So that's my problem there. Or you would go Ahmad, which then you are bringing up those same Mbeumo problems of, do they just get in each other's way a little bit? Which is a problem. But you do have 2 very direct runners in the team with Mbeumo's ability to, Bruno's ability to drop on the left and play forward passes. Like this right, if Bruno had the ball deep left, sort of drops in and overloads to midfield and then gets his head up, you can imagine with those 3 on the far side, that is very, very dangerous. The other option, people may not like it, is, for the sake of balance, you could go Dalot on the right-hand side. Just hear me out for a sec. For the balance with Mbeumo. Do you then try the Ahmad left experiment? What do we make of that team? I'm aware we're missing a centre-back right now. We'll figure that out later. Is that something that we could try? Dalot hasn't been good this season. No, he hasn't. He hasn't. He's started quite poorly. His stats and his numbers aren't too bad, but yeah, he's just not played particularly well. I'm just getting booed in the chat for putting Dalot in the team. Understandable. Play Dorgu and Ahmad. Interchange Shesko and Mbeumo for the flick on. I think we've got to try and use that. We've got to try and use that flick. Camerson, yeah. Possible. The other problem we've got is actually in centre-back. People don't want Maguire. People don't want Shaw. We don't have Mazraoui. So the options are like a Dalot playing centre-back or Heaven or Fredrickson coming into the team who we haven't seen yet this season. So if you guys don't want Shaw and Maguire, which is fair, they were poor last week. Again, it throws up this conversation of balance. That's what I keep coming back to. For me, if you're playing Heaven in defence, good young player, but not amazing yet, right? I think you do need Dorgu to protect him. But I don't want Dorgu and Dalot as my wing-backs. I want to be more aggressive than that. So I'm going to take Dalot out of the team. Which leaves us with this question here. Is Mbeumo right wing-back with a Mount in the 10? With a... Where is he? Cunha in the 10? Or is it Ahmad wing back? Oh, we did see Heaven and Fredrickson, but we don't talk about it. Never happened, mate. Never happened. Never happened. I do not want Dallo in this team. Clearly suffering from joystick drift. It's happened to all of us, right? Stick drift. Nightmare. Okay. Am I just right in saying this? We don't want Dallo in our team, particularly just because he's not played well. We don't want Shaw because he weren't very good last week. Or the week. He was okay the week before, but the one before that he weren't great. And we don't want Maguire because we want to try and play a little bit higher if we can. And at the moment, he seems to prevent us from doing that. Am I right in saying that? I think I am. So I think that leaves us with this back three, because we don't want Maguire, we don't want Shaw, we don't have Mazraoui, we don't want Dallo, so he can't play there. So it leaves us with that back three. If you've got Heaven left centre back, I think you need Dorgu for the athleticism and the protection, which is fine. I don't like something that's going to lead to in a minute. We might have to be less stubborn here and change something. At that point, it's Cunha or Mount. Mount, you could play right 10, Bruno left 10, or you could flip him, or you could bring Cunha in. So Cunha or Mount is what I'd like to see. Oh, you guys did vote for Casemiro as well, which I need to revisit in the starting 11. I'll put if as in IF, but obviously I'm saying inside forward for this position. So Mount or Cunha. Obviously, Mount is sort of like the standard setter in a way that he plays. I think he sort of sets a level that the rest of the team's got to follow. Physically, technically, tactical intelligence. He knows what he's doing. He's just a good player for that. But Cunha does have that star quality, which Mount perhaps doesn't possess. When you need a win, which United do need right now, do you favour a Cunha because he can give you those moments, because he's a game breaker? Let me know what you think. Can we move away from three at the backs? I'd love to, but I just don't think it's realistic to have that conversation this weekend. This formation makes it quite hard to maximise a lot of our players. I completely agree. We got a super chat in the chat, which I noticed thanks to you guys leaving loads of love hearts. Just started watching. Any starting 11 discussion that has Cunha on the bench isn't based on reality and is just fan fiction. Sorry. It's more likely that Bruno plays as a regista or Šeško is benched. I think I get what you're saying in theory. When we signed Cunha, if you told me that in game week 7 we'd be considering benching him, I'd be like, what are you talking about? That's not going to happen. I do think, though, in the left 10, we're sort of blessed with quality. We've got Cunha as an option. We've got Xerxes. We've got Bruno. We've got Mount. Ahmad's played there already this season. We do have a lot of players for that area. So I don't think it's unreasonable to suggest that he could come out of the 11. I personally don't think he will. If I was a betting man, I would think that Cunha is going to play. But I don't think it's out of the equation to have conversations without him, if you see what I'm saying. But regardless, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. We've also got a super chat from Alex as well. Alex, thank you very much. 3-4-1-2 would be amazing. Mount as the 1 behind Mbeumo and Šeško, interchanging in the classic little large striker partnership. Bruno can roam, Mainu, Casemiro pivot. Yeah, I like it. Something different. That's what I want. I want to see change from United. I want to see a different approach. Sorry, guys. My phone is popping off right now with loads of notifications, and I'm not sure what's going on. It's crazy how we are now in a position where missing Mazraoui hurts us so much. I think it's the fact that we're missing Mazraoui, plus we've got several we don't want to play. I want to get your thoughts on that 11. By the way, Alex did just confirm you're going to have to drop one of Bruno or Mainu. He did follow up with that. What are your thoughts on this starting 11? And, you know, as your subs, you've got Xerxes, you've got Mount, you've got Casemiro, you've got Dallo for intensity. Loads of centre-backs, if he wants to bring one of them on, as always. What do we think? Heaven is never going to start. Can we not start one of the fullbacks, Mazraoui or Dallo, as a right centre-back and let him invert into midfield? I want to come to that in 1 second. Because, yes, there's a point that I want to make. What about dropping Šeško for Cunha? That way we don't have to choose between Cunha and Mount. That is also a fair shout. I just think, you know, if we were to make this front three, I think at that point we're going to an 11 that I don't see happening. I can't imagine a front three where we don't have that pure runner. Obviously, Mount and Bruno are quite selfless players. They will go past. But it's not the same as having like a Šeško in the front line who will offer that sort of relentless run in behind. So it's definitely an option. But I think it's slightly beyond what we're trying. But I completely get the point. Ball retention doesn't really exist in our midfield. It's really hard. Yeah, I mean, Kobe is obviously someone that can hopefully change that with his tempo. I think Ugarte is also less direct than some of the players that we've seen there recently. Sometimes too slow on the ball. But, yeah. I think Mbeumo can't have his mind on defending. We want him closer to goal. You forgot Casemiro. So, that point is what we need to talk about. There is a problem here. Mbeumo right wing back, lovely. On the ball, lovely. In theory, it's lovely. Okay, and what we want to achieve. We want to be an aggressive team that plays with high wing backs in the final third. That's where Mbeumo has already been receiving the ball this season. Mbeumo has been receiving the ball wide on the right-hand side. If we play him wing back, we can get him there more naturally. So here, we've got Dalot has been inverting, and Mbeumo has been moving wider. We can simplify that. Mbeumo as a wing back allows him to start high and wide on the right. He can still drift in, of course he can, because we've seen our wing backs do that, but he can cross from that side. I like it. But there's a problem. When we defend, which we will have to do at some point, because Sunderland has started the season well, they've got a lot of confidence, we're a little bit frail, and we're a passive team at the best of times, there will be moments where we have to defend. We cannot do this. This we cannot do. We cannot have Mbeumo defending as a right wing back. We can't do that. Mbeumo cannot defend wide right in a back five. It's not okay. It's just unacceptable. We can't do that. So what we have to do is swing the defence around one way or another. We need to find a way of freeing him up. Steve has said there, 4-4-2. Defend in a 4-4-2. Now, some people will go, but Amorim stuck to his 3-4-3, so he'll never do that. But we know that's not true. We have seen matches where we've defended in a 4-4-2 in the past year. We've done it. And at times we've done it quite effectively, actually. So we can swing to that back four. I like it. Mbeumo goes right. Cunha comes left. And our back four sort of shifts across like this. And this is now our defensive shape. I quite like this. Mbeumo and Cunha can be really aggressive from these positions. You could almost become a 3-2 if you wanted it to. And you've got Bruno's intensity, but also his ill-discipline, perhaps positionally, higher up the pitch. He's not in here where he's going to gamble and be caught out for it. He's intense with Šeško. I like this. The concern I have is Heaven centrally, sort of in a back four. He was a midfielder when he was at Arsenal. 18 months ago, he was a midfielder. Would I trust him to play in these sort of positions defensively? I'm not so sure. This is where and you guys are going to hate me, it's where I would consider this. You guys aren't going to like it, right? But just hear me out for a second for the sake of balance. Just hear me out. I would be tempted by this. So on the ball, we would play like a back three. Back three. So you'd get Dorgu and Mbeumo really high. You'd get Šeško up here. You'd get Bruno and Cunha in those two tens, and Bruno can drop in with Ugarte or Casemiro, whoever it is. You could go for this shape on the ball, which is very aggressive. Very aggressive. I like it. Mbeumo high right. That's aggressive. Bruno, Cunha, Šeško, Kobe. Loads of creative players that can solve problems. We've got ball progression from the wide centre-backs. Lovely. Then off the ball, you can swing into more of that 4-4-2. Cunha perhaps not the best player to play sort of this position defensively, because he doesn't want to do too much tracking towards his own goal, but sort of tough luck, deal with it, mate. Sometimes you've got to take one for the team and play this role. If you don't want to do it, put Mason Mount there. Take Cunha out, Mount in. We can do that. I quite like this balance. I don't think Amorim will do it, because I don't think we'll see Mbeumo start this position. But in terms of, again, proving the point that you can play this 3-4-3 in so many different ways and find so many different solutions, I quite like this team. Change Dorgu out for Ahmad. You could. It becomes very aggressive, and then you've got Ahmad defending left back, which I wouldn't be a huge fan of. But on the ball, yeah, very aggressive. Again, I'm not saying this is perfect, right? Of course it's not. We know that we still need a midfield signing. We know that we probably need reinforcements in defence and on the left side of the pitch. We know we need that. But in terms of working with what we've got, sticking to a lot of Amorim's ideas and his base structures, but exploring a little bit further, trying to evolve, I actually quite like it as a team. I know people won't be too happy with Dallo there. I'd want Mazraoui. You know, I'd want him there, but he's not fit right. So, yeah. But I'd like it. I'd like it. Anyway, I got some super chats to catch up on because you guys have been firing away with them in the chat. First of all, changes I think we will see. Ahmad starts and is instructed to create width. A wingback, I assume you mean. Dorgu the same. Creating an abandonment of the back five to actually playing with a back three. Yoro also replaces Maguire. I think they are all very possible things. And then, did you follow up? Forgot to add Le Mans may start. Very possible. I would like to see him. Thank you very much for the super chat. Le Mans especially needs to play. And yeah, I get the idea with Ahmad. I guess we've sort of created something similar with Mbeumo. But yeah, I like the idea. And we've also got a super chat from Steve Brooks. In his interview on TNT, Amorim said he is changing the system. Yeah, I haven't fully watched that interview, I will admit. So I can't give loads of thoughts and opinions on it. Sort of just reading that, even you saying that, I sort of get the impression that he's going back to his whole evolution thing, where he means as we get better, he will add more things in, the system will look different, even if it's the same sort of starting shape. He'll add more ideas in, add more patterns of play in to make it more complex, more advanced. I'd be surprised if he means he's ripping it up and going like 4-2-3-1, for example. I'd be surprised if it means that, but I've been surprised by him before, so maybe it is that. Maybe it is that. But yes, thank you very much for the super chat. And also, guys, thank you for spamming the chat with the love hearts to make sure that I noticed them. Thank you very much, guys. Dallo has been below par, still doesn't scan. Yeah, this is the problem, right? I don't really want Dallo in the team because I just don't think he's been good enough recently. But I think that profile, again, I'd love it to be Mazraoui, but he's not fit right now. I think that sort of profile is needed. Unless you guys trust Heaven a bit more than I do in that sort of 4-4-2 off the ball. Perhaps I'm a bit harsh on him. I personally would be a little bit uncertain about him in that position, but maybe that's just me. You guys might disagree. He has said that in multiple press conferences before about evolving. Yeah, that's sort of the vibe I'm getting. I'm just going to say it now. If Dallo plays, he costs us at least one goal, at least. Okay, then. What's the solution? We don't have Mazraoui. Let's pivot. Let's find a solution. We don't want to play Dallo. Okay, I do get it. In an ideal world, I don't want to. How do we solve it? How do we get around that problem? Now, Steve has suggested Luke Shaw comes back in. Now, of course, people are going to kick off about that as well. And that's why we've got a problem. There's so many people we don't want in the team right now. Shaw is a solution. I don't think it's as nice balance-wise. Just because he's not naturally a centre-back. And Yoro's not naturally a right-back. But I think you could still swing into that back four and you'd be okay. It's not amazing. But if people really don't want to play Dallo, this probably is a way around it. I wouldn't mind this. I'd trust Heaven if Casemiro was in front of him. My fear with Heaven is, say, long balls coming up to him, crosses into the box. I don't think his box defence is that good right now. I'd make the same point about Luke Shaw, though, to be fair. Trust Heaven. He's been great when he plays. He's young, he's mobile, he's rapid, and he's strong. My concern with Heaven isn't sort of like him as a player, his future level or anything like that. It's simply, like I said, 18 months ago, he was a midfielder for Arsenal and one that struggled defensively in midfield. At centre-back, when we've seen him, he's been a wide centre-back. I don't think we've seen him defending properly in a 4-4-2 yet. I don't think. Perhaps I'm wrong. I think when we've seen him, he's been defending these zones. Where is he? Here he is. But that is something we can do. Again, we end up with Yoro right back, which isn't perfect, but it's not the end of the world. He's capable of doing it, right? He can certainly play that role. Dorgu, right wing back, Shaw, left wing back. Do your rotation anti-clockwise. Yep, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that could work as well. This is where we need to trust that it's leadership skills. Yeah, that's a fair point. Yes, fair point. Maguire, central centre-back. De Ligt, right centre-back. Yoro, left. See, yeah, that's the other thing. Could we bring a Maguire in, or do people simply not want to see him? Challenge him. Although, Steve, I would actually maybe flip Yoro and De Ligt in your system there. So, like, De Ligt would go as my left one. Maguire would come here, and then Euro would be here. It's sort of how I would do it if we're trying to get ourselves to a back four so we can play an aggressive wing back. Like I said, if it was me, I probably would go Dalot centre back and just sort of bite the bullet and go, we're going to have to play him again because we're low on options right now. But I don't mind the Shaw solution, and Heaven is there as an option as well. I think you guys might favour Heaven. I don't think we'll see this midfield, not enough control or ball playing. I think it's more control than any midfield we've played this season. It does lack the directness which the other two bring, which is why Amorim is unlikely to do it. But that's sort of the point of today. I'm sort of like, as much as possible, trying to go against Amorim while still fitting his kind of criteria for the team, if you know what I mean. You know, if it's me, I'd be picking a 4-3-3 or something. People forget that our best game this season had Dalot at right back and Shaw at left centre back. Mount in there doing good things as well. That is the shame here that we don't end up with Mount in the starting 11. But in terms of players that you can bring on from the bench, I think these guys are really nice. Really nice. Like those bench options. If we need a goal, there's some serious quality there to bring on from the bench. Like serious quality. I quite like that. Ugarte Casemiro is still an interesting one. You guys did vote Casemiro in the poll, so I'll put him in because you guys voted for it. I still think I personally would go Ugarte. Just if we're playing that aggressive wing back, I think I want just an extra bit of mobility there to help cover, which Casemiro doesn't possess. Ugarte is not amazing at it, but he is better than Casemiro in that sense. So I would go Ugarte, but you guys voted Casemiro, so I will put Casemiro into the team. Trying to think, at that point, do you switch these guys? So Casemiro can help Heaven aerially, or do you keep him this side for his defensive ability to help Mbeumo? It's a tricky one. I like the idea of getting players like Kobe and Cunha close together. I think that could be quite nice. Mourinho didn't trust Shaw. I think his back post defending has always been a problem. His sort of awareness, his concentration, just being switched on in big moments has been a problem. This team doesn't fill me with confidence at set pieces. No, I get that. I completely get that. And this is the problem. I'm a perfectionist personally. I think it's why I find it quite difficult to create a United team, because I want to make it perfect, and we can't. We just don't have the squad for that. You know, we do lack a certain profile on the left, certain profiles in midfield. There's a few things that we're lacking in this team, so it's difficult to get it really how we like it. But I quite like this team. You know, I can imagine Mbeumo and Bruno playing together nicely, with Bruno sometimes like dropping into this space here. Can he pull the centre-back and Mbeumo now be the runner in there, for example? Is that something that we can do, possibly? Someone mentioned it earlier. Let's say Cunha gets the ball on the left in this space, or Kobe in this space here. That sort of back post cross towards the likes of Sesko, Bruno and Mbeumo is quite nice. On the flip side, I still think Bruno can cross from here that way to Cunha. I quite like it. I think these two close together could be a lot of fun, just because I think these sorts of players need to play close to each other. It's a bit like when you get a Xerxes in there as well. These players, they want to synergize. They want to connect. They want to connect with people. I know people will say that Cunha is quite selfish at times, which he is. But I also think he's someone that wants these technical players around him, that wants to associate himself with those guys. So I actually think these two, you know, there'd be a bit of clashing, which we'd need to sort of get over. But I think these two sort of blending together and mixing down this side could actually be quite nice to see. Particularly because Bruno can also drop in and give us that extra number as well. Amorim needs to be brave and take risks. Yeah, and again, that's why we've gone for this approach today. I don't think we'll see this 11 this weekend. No chance. Do not put any money on this 11 starting. I don't see it happening. But what I want to try and do today is just find something different, to stick with the same ideas or whatever that Amorim knows and loves so much. But just try and get some different players in to try something different, because, as we've said a few times, clearly it isn't working. Where is it? League table 14th. Pass maps. We can't get the ball forward. This is the last two games. Brentford and Chelsea. We can't find our forwards at the moment. We can't find them. You can see we're finding our wing-backs a lot, which is why I like the idea of aggressive wing-backs, which is why I like the idea of, can Mbeumo do that job? And be that aggressive player who's now getting more touches of the ball, providing us with more. Possibly. I think this is interesting as well. Just the shot origins for United, once again, from xgstat.com, if you want to check it out. Again, more on that in the next few days. It's interesting where United are shooting from. A lot of shots from outside the box. Although I thought this was a high number. And then I went and checked Liverpool's, and Liverpool's was like 35 or 37% of their shots were coming outside the box. So perhaps it's not as big a problem as what we're making out. You know, we keep going like we're shooting from range too much. We're creating a lot of shots, but not good shots, if you know what I mean. We're just shooting from distance, and it's a problem. But yeah, Liverpool's percentages for outside of the box were higher than ours, which I found interesting. I probably should have grabbed that stat, but yeah. I hate how this system completely ignores the middle. This is why I think our iteration of it doesn't have to. I don't think our idea has to. You've got 3 players there that can get on the ball and play. There's some good footballers there. There's some serious ability with long passing range, with short passing range, with tight control, pressure relief, things like that. You've got runners in the front line. You've got ball carrying in the front line. I quite like this team. I really do. And I think it gets Bruno away from some of our defensive stuff. I like it. And for those that are joining late and thinking, why on earth is Mbeumo at wing-back? The point is that defensively, he doesn't defend as a wing-back. He can tuck right side of midfield, and United can play something like this. Again, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's an attempt to find a different solution that gets some of our better players in better positions. Granted, we still haven't got Bruno in his best role. In an ideal world, would have him on the left. You could still do that if you brought Mount in, but you guys voted Cunha. You know, he's certainly more comfortable here than he is here. Cobby, a central midfielder, is playing central midfield. I like that. It's why I would have Dallo in for the comfort reasons. But I quite like this team. The last thing that I want to do is get some predictions. Not his future. The scoreline. We need to climb up the table, but like I said right at the start, this is the easiest time in the season to climb the table because everyone's still nice and close to each other. So it doesn't take many points to get yourself back in the mix. You just have to get those points sharpish, you know, quite soon, please and thank you. Starting this weekend, 3 points. 3 points. Please, can we do that? Šeško doesn't get aerial passes in the game. They can't manage it. Actually, the one thing Šeško does get is aerial passes. If you... was it on this map? It was a different map that I used the other day. The most common pass to Šeško was the aerial from Bayindir. That was the most common pass that he received. I'm joining now and I like the 3 centre-backs. I'm glad to hear that. Welcome to the stream. You know what, Steve? I'll treat you. Can we look at a press versus their goal kicks? We can, mate. We can. I do need to nip off and record a video and eat some food, but that can wait. Football's more important. Let's talk about pressing. Now, like I said, I haven't seen enough of Sunderland to tell you how they play out from the back, how they approach these moments. Are they direct? Do they play short? Is it one-man midfield? Is it 2? Is it 3? I don't know. Looking at this setup, though, on paper, in theory, what you could expect from them, you would expect United sort of like to try and press man-to-man in these moments and probably keep the +1 at the back. Like that. Obviously, we're light in midfield. This is where, again, I wouldn't be happy with Heaven playing that role, nor De Ligt, because I wouldn't want Heaven then dealing with the long. So that's a slight concern. Perhaps you could go for more of a piston press. Something like this, where as the ball goes, you go. So let's say Sunderland, for example, are in this shape in this moment. Again, I haven't seen enough of them to know. But let's say we're now man-to-man in midfield. A piston press works a little bit. The nearest player goes towards the ball, the other one covers. So let's sort of tie these two together. One goes, other tucks. So this player's got the ball. Šeško goes, Bruno tucks. Ball comes across. Bruno goes, Šeško tucks. Now, this was something that was really in the game a couple of years back. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, we were seeing a lot of teams doing this. I think since then, there's been a development of man-to-man pressing and of hybrid pressing as well, which means this approach isn't as good, to tell the truth. It's not that effective. Teams have started to find ways to play around this. But if United want to get pressure on the ball without being too exposed at the back, this could potentially be a way that you do it. The piston press gives us a lovely high mid block. It does. It keeps us more secure. It does definitely keep us more secure. And the thing to remember when we're talking about pressing, and even man-to-man pressing, is man-to-man doesn't mean you're holding hands with them. Let's say you're man-to-man when the keeper's got the ball. And Mbeumo doesn't literally have to be on the left back. He can leave himself 10 yards short, because as that ball comes, there's plenty of time to get over whilst the ball's in the air. But also, importantly, he is still connected with his backline. So these guys don't have to be up here and leave us super exposed here. They can play connected with the rest of the team. And when that ball goes, whilst it's travelling in the air, that's when you make your jump across. I think that's something that United could probably do more of, to be honest. I'm scared of getting baited by the press. Possible, yeah. I'm concerned about most things. In the back of my mind, every part of the game, I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, I don't know how we're going to deal with it. I'm a little bit worried about this. I think the big thing for me is I think there's going to be a massive confidence difference coming into this game. Sunderland are flying high right now. I think, was it 2 teams in Premier League history? Or was it 2 teams in the past century? One of the 2 have started better as a newly promoted team. They're flying. They're doing an incredible job. United right now aren't. Sunderland are going to be high as a kite. United are going to be a bit down. That's important as well. That's something that we can't talk about on our tactics board. We can't talk about the confidence, the work rate, the mentality, things like that, how you deal with setbacks. We can't really talk about that on here, but that's going to be as important in this game as everything else. If we can, start well and get Old Trafford crowd behind us, then United can go on to have a great afternoon. It's a game where player quality-wise, we have too much. Our players are better than Sunderland's players. I don't mean any disrespect by that, but they just are, right? Sunderland are coached better currently, but United have the better individuals. This is an afternoon where you could go win 3-0 at Old Trafford, and we're looking at it very differently, right? If you score early, get the crowd behind you, it could be a very different afternoon for United to what we saw last weekend. I think it can change that quickly. It's a very emotional squad, it feels. So I think it can change quick. It seems like we have not been able to beat a low block in about 10 years. It's always a weird thing with a low block, because I always sit and watch United and I go, we're struggling to break this team down. Why are we struggling to break this team down so much? Then I go and watch Liverpool and they struggle as well. And I go and watch City and they struggle as well. And I go and watch Arsenal and they struggle as well. Low blocks are just difficult to play against. I'm not saying Sunderland will do that this weekend, but perhaps if they were a goal up, for example, they might. But finding a way through this, and they're not just dots, are they? They are humans that are physical, they're intense, they run about, they might come kick you, they're going to communicate, they're going to pass men on. That is just difficult to play against. It's difficult to get through that, which is why so often teams will go round it. The problem is we struggle with delivery into the box. Other teams can't go through the press, so we'll go round it instead and deliver. We struggle with that. You think Liverpool, when they couldn't play through a block, you'd go wide to Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. Deliveries are amazing. We've sort of got like Dallo and Dorgu delivering at the moment, which is very different. It's why I like the idea of Mbeumo. Perhaps he can give us something a little bit different from the right, potentially. But I think these are just difficult moments anyway, at the best of times. Nowadays, teams don't really play low blocks against us. They don't even respect us. Yeah. I think that's true. I said this the other week. If United can get better at transitioning, for starters, teams respect you more because they're scared of the space, so they start to drop off. That's when you control. That's when you force into a block. Right now, we're not doing that because we're not punishing teams. Like I said, teams don't respect us at the moment. Teams come to Old Trafford and they're like, all right, we'll take them on. Brentford last week, they didn't seem that over the moon that they'd beat United. Once upon a time, that's a giant killing for them. Even just 4 years ago, that would be a big result for Brentford. But they just sort of look like, yeah, this is kind of what we do. Yeah, it's only United. Got a bigger game next week. There is that difference. But these teams get the job done. Once our heads go, it's a lottery. Exactly. And that's exactly my point. Why about emotionally, things we can't talk about here is so important. Like you said, your Liverpools, your Cities, your Arsenals, your good teams, they persist. Your PSGs, your Barcelonas, they persist with their idea. Whereas United, it feels like there's that impatience, probably because we've been terrible for 12 years. So the second it's 0-0 against a team we should be beating, you're like, we need that goal. If not, the fans are going to be on our back and the media's going to be on our back because we haven't scored against only Sunderland. If it was Liverpool, it just feels that they don't think like that. They know the goal's going to come eventually and that they'll be fine. We are the most scrutinised team in England, maybe in the world. The pressures are very different. Like I said, sometimes I go and watch these other teams, and yes, of course, they're better than us in a lot of aspects. But, I don't think the Premier League's that good right now. If we go to the league table, over here, I look at the teams so far this season, and the ones that I think can win the league, Palace have been great, Sunderland have been great. They're not going to win the league this year. It's Liverpool and Arsenal and City, really, are the teams you look at. Well, City haven't been very impressive. Liverpool have got the results up until last weekend, but I think have been incredibly poor. I watched their first five games. So ironically, the two I've missed, they've lost in all comps this season. So maybe I won't watch Liverpool this weekend. But the first five games, I don't think Liverpool were a better team in a single football match. I really don't. Arsenal probably are the team that have impressed me the most. And they struggle to create chances from open play and are heavily reliant on set pieces. Now, yes, they do a great job of winning those set pieces, of building momentum, of suffocating teams. But it's what's so weird about I don't think we've got an amazing Premier League this year, which is why it's frustrating for United, because I don't think it would take a lot for us to be competing top five, because I don't think the top five is as good as what it's been previously. That's why it's so frustrating. If we were just half decent, if we could half compete, we'd be up there. But we can't. That's why it's annoying. United should 100% compete for European spots. I can bare minimum. Completely agree. Completely agree. I think there is a difference between how bad we were from 2014 to 2023 and 2023 to current. I agree. This is the worst we've been. This is the worst we've been. Zubamendi is a player that we need to clone or find a different one, yeah? Arsenal are grindy grinders and it's not pretty, but it's impressive. Yeah, but I just feel, and again, goes back to like the mentality of the players, the scrutiny on the football club, the pressure on the club, fans, everything. With Arsenal, when you watch them, you don't get that sense of impatience. It just feels like they're going to score, partly because they have that reliable goal method with the set pieces. I just don't think we would be so calm. Arsenal this weekend could play Sunderland, be 0-0, score a set piece in the 80th and the 90th, and everyone's like, cool, never in doubt, bosh, go on to the next one. If it was United, we'd watch it 0-0 till the 80th, and this sort of like stress and tension forms around the players. It doesn't take 80 minutes to form. We see it after 20. You see it almost swallow the players a lot of the time. Like, they get swallowed in the crap, we're not winning 13-0 right now, we're in trouble. Every single time. And that's where I say we are an emotional team. I think Bruno's an emotional player. I think there's a lot of them. It is a problem. It doesn't help, or it's not helped by the fact that we signed more emotional players this summer. Cunha. We lack that calm, but it's because there is increased pressure when you've been bad for so long. And it's this endless, horrendous cycle that we're in, which we need to try and escape. And I don't know how you escape it. Probably just by getting results. But we're struggling to do that because the confidence is low and the system, the coaching is poor. It's a horrible cycle. It's a horrible cycle. I'll tell you what isn't a horrible cycle, though, and that's the support in the chat today. We've got another super chat here saying the same issues Amorim spoke about with Hargreaves recently. Benny McCarthy also spoke about it. Just showcases the stagnation we are in currently. Yeah, exactly. It's that endless cycle, and that's over two managers. So it's not just the manager. It's not Amorim's fault because it was happening previously. There is just a deep-rooted problem at this club, which is what happens when a big club is bad for so long. These problems occur and they're sort of there. You don't quite know what they are. It's difficult to put a finger on it, but they definitely exist. We feel like we're cursed at this point. The problems are there. I don't quite know how you escape that. For me, I think tactically, you can set your team up better to give yourself a better opportunity, to give yourself the best chance of winning the match. But also, there is this player mentality thing, which is, it's not an intensity thing. I don't believe these players down tools. I don't believe they lack the work rate. I think they lack the belief and the confidence in themselves, in the system, in their teammates perhaps, to stay calm and trust that they can get the job done. I think that's what we lack. But thank you very much for the super chat and bringing up that point, because it is a good one. It's to be expected, though. We have an entirely brand new front line. They haven't gelled at all yet. 100%. I completely agree. My point is, you could put any front three out there. And it just feels that over time, if we're not scoring goals, it creeps in, right? You must have it as a fan. We sit there and 30 minutes in, we haven't quite clicked yet. And you start thinking like, So we're still terrible this week, are we? Lovely. We're going to lose again. Cool. Great. Whereas if Liverpool had a slow first 30 minutes, I doubt Liverpool fans think in the same way. That's the point I'm trying to make. There's a different energy around United. And I don't know how to explain it. There's not data to back it up. You can't quantify it. But it's there. This thing that just like, we're not winning right now, so we're in a crisis. Or we're only winning because of set pieces, so we're in a crisis. Or we're only beating 10 men, so we're in a crisis. It's there, and I don't really know how we get away from it without winning. It's tricky. What annoys me is the heads going down in adversity moments. Exactly what I'm talking about. Arsenal go 1-0 down, they'll be annoyed, they'll roll their eyes, they'll tut, but they just get straight back on it because they trust in their ability to get straight back on it. That's where I don't think United have that. I don't think we have the trust and the confidence in ourselves to think, okay, we've gone 1-0 down, we're going to win 3-1 still, we'll be fine. We've just hit 100 likes, by the way. Stephanie, thank you very much for keeping us updated on that. And thank all 100 of you. That doesn't make sense. Thank you very much to all 100 of you that have left a like on this stream. Absolute legends. Legends. Thank you very much. Everything about United is always more emphasised than other teams. Yeah, everything. Literally everything, down to the finest detail. I can't blame them. Me neither. Completely agree. Completely agree. It's tricky. It's tough. But today, I think we've proven that even with a far from perfect squad, that we can be creative, that we can find different ways to do things. And therefore, for me, there's no excuse this weekend to not go out there and perform. Amorim and the players. I just don't have a picture of all the players today. Amorim and the players need to do better this weekend. We need more. We need improvement. We need progress. We need a result. We need a performance. We need to want to like this club. You know, the bare minimum always is the United players have got to work hard this weekend. They've got to compete for every duel. Technically, they've got to play to a level that we know they can play. They've got to look after the ball when they get it. They've got to make good decisions. If we have a setback, they've got to bounce back properly. All of that's on the players. In terms of on the Amorim front, he's got to set up the squad with the best instructions, the best tactics, the best ideas to give the team the best chance of winning. If we do all of those things, there's no reason we can't win this football match and claw ourselves back into the top 10 and end on a high before the international break. And then after the international break, we go again, we take on Liverpool, and you play from there. It's as simple as that right now. I don't know how much longer he's going to have the job. I don't know. It feels like he's under pressure. It does. But a few wins in a row, some of that pressure goes. It does. So if he wants the job, get creative, get more out of your players, and also kick your players up the backside to make sure that they give you a full performance. We're more deadly. We need to be more clinical now, says Ant in the super chat. I agree. We're more threatening. Now we've got to take those chances. I do agree with that. 100%. After international break, he's gone. Possibly. And just going back to that point. Yeah. Take your chances. What we didn't do last weekend is what we have done well this season. We've started games very fast this season and sort of blown teams away in the first 15 and sort of not taken the chance. We didn't do that last weekend. This weekend, we need to start fast again. Or not again. Start fast like we did earlier in the season. And then this week, what we need to do is take those chances. If you get a few opportunities in the first 15, be deadly. Cunha, Bruno, and Mbeumo, Sesko. You're good forwards who are paid a lot of money. Perform, give us results. Mazraoui is not back from injury. I did not realise that at the time of making the thumbnail, but that is why we eventually left him out. Also, my chair is sinking. There we go, that's better. Anyway, that is all for today. We barely even covered Le Mans in goal. We need to see him playing. That is all for today. I have enjoyed this stream very much. We found something a little bit different. Different ideas for Amorim, but still in his structure. His base shape, if you like it. I like it, different solutions. So thank you guys very much for helping with that. Also, thank you very much for joining in the chat, for voting in the polls. Anyone who just sort of sits there quietly watching the stream, because I know you're out there. Everyone that liked, subscribed, got your notifications on. You're all absolute legends, so thank you very much. And of course, the super chats, the memberships, the gifted memberships, are legends. It's stuff like that which really keeps the channel going and helps us to upgrade and improve. And hopefully in the long term, we can become like the biggest United analysis YouTube channel. Which analysis-wise, we're already doing pretty decent in that respect, to be fair. We're getting there. So yeah, Thank you guys for the support. It really does mean a lot, and it helps massively. Massively, it helps. So thank you guys very much. But for today, we are now finished. There should be a video out at around 6 p.m, 6:30 p.m. this evening, unless anything goes wrong and sort of goes off course. But there should be a video tonight. Then tomorrow we play at 3 o'clock UK time, and I should have the video out the same day, probably about 8 p.m, breaking down how United won 3-0 is my hope. And then videos Sunday, Monday. I'm not sure about streaming during the international break, but if you guys can find the topics, or I can find the topics, things we want to talk about, then the streams will continue during the international break as well. Hopefully this weekend, United don't ruin the weekend. Hopefully we get ourselves 3 points, a fun, exciting front-footed performance, and we're all happy. That's all we want, isn't it? That's all we want. Hopefully this weekend we get it. Will we? I don't know. Let's wait and see. But for today, we are finished. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I shall see you guys